What's up, guys? This is Bradley along with Zach and Dawson. Today, we're going live a little bit later this time to discuss that Ravens Steelers game that happened a few hours ago. Definitely not what we wanted. The unfortunate thing about it is it's kind of what we expected. Just when you look at the history of this matchup and everything that's kind of culminated over the last now 9 games against the Steelers, Ravens are 1-8. It's really just not surprising at all what happened. You had the 2 misses from Justin Tucker. That's 6 points. And then you had the 2 fumbles. That's 12 points. And then the Ravens lose by 2 with 12 points of mistakes. So that's kind of what I look at initially with this game. Despite the offense playing poorly, you still could have won by 10 points. Zach, what are your initial thoughts coming out of this one?
It was more just disappointment. I saw a few tweets, like Cole Jackson saying like teams that kind of choke, like stick to choking until you kind of fully get rid of it, and that takes a full new identity. And it made me think about coaches. It made me think about the core players on this team, and sitting at 7-4. I think a lot of teams would take that, but I think we all know that we should be better than that, even after a rocky start. And this was a team, and especially a game, where it felt like winning it would do so much for everyone and for every, especially to win how we almost got a chance to. Like 18 points for the Steelers would have been impressive. It's impressive no matter what, but the offense kind of skidding out just bums me out, really.
If you would have told me going into this game that the Ravens defense holds Pittsburgh completely out of the end zone and they just have to win going off field goals, I would have told you no way the Ravens win this game and just there's no way Baltimore loses.
Yeah.
It's crazy to say that the Ravens defense today played their best game of the season. They actually played a really clean game for the most part. I know there was a lot of penalties, more so on the Ravens offensive side of the ball rather than our defense, but mad props, all the respect in the world to our defense today, man. They came in and played a great game, kind of kept us in this game because realistically, Pittsburgh's offense has been really good this season, and they could have put up a lot more points than they did. And man, Ravens played a game that they have played for the last few years now against Pittsburgh, and it was really ugly. They kind of shot themselves in the foot early and often. And we all saw the second play of the game. Derrick Henry fumbled, and from there, it kind of just never got going for Baltimore. And it's kind of a disappointment. It is really unfortunate because the Ravens have this monkey on their back in Pittsburgh, and they cannot get past the Steelers. It seems like every year it's always a huge game, and we struggle against them very heavily, and it sucks because this is a team that realistically we should be able to beat, and I would say beat more often than we lose to them. So it's unfortunate, and it's just weird how every Steelers Ravens game kind of goes down the same hole. It's always just a bunch of miscues, penalties, turnovers. The Ravens really just playing ugly football. It's so weird. It's something I'll never understand. It is so weird to see these games because they all literally happen in the same fashion, and it just sucks, man. Because realistically, the Ravens are 7-4. They're still sitting with a pretty good record, I would say, through 11 weeks. So I'm not going to sit here and complain like the season's over or anything. Because obviously, it's not. But it sucks because there's at least a couple of wins there that they didn't get that we realistically probably should have.
Yeah, just to remain or to keep the positive attitude, I feel like we try to do this after every loss. In 2021 and 2022, there were moments where it was just like, the Ravens are not winning the Super Bowl this year. Like, you could just tell. And like, I'll say it right now, and we've said this after every loss, the Ravens still have the team to win it all this year. So it's not a crash and burn type of situation. You are 7-4. It's going to be tough to win the division now. It's not impossible at all. Still got another game against the Steelers. Steelers have to play the Chiefs and the Eagles, I believe. To address some comments in here, there's a good one from Attitude Pop. Appreciate you for being here. This team is so undisciplined, and the same thing happening every time. This coaching staff sucks. Lamar's kryptonite is not the Steelers or Chiefs. It's his own team.
Wow.
And we saw Lamar after the game say they've basically been shooting themselves in the foot. since the AFC Championship game and all their losses. And I think you can go back way before that too, to I would say 2022. It's normally been at home, the sort of falling apart losses, but there's been a couple on the road this year as well. And it just, you can go back to the Derrick Henry fumble on the first possession of the game, the second play of the game. It's going to be, 7-8 yard run. Feels like the Ravens are about to, get the ball going, and just mistake from the start. I'm watching the game with my roommate Henry, who we had on a few days ago, and we're both just laughing right after Derrick Henry fumbles, because it's like, again, like every single time the Ravens play the Steelers, it's just the Ravens just make mistake after mistake after mistake. And today was 12 points of mistakes.
It's so weird because it's literally a very consistent pattern. I mean, literally, if you look at, I'm just going to be honest, if you look at every single Ravens Steelers game, I would say in the last 3 years, if you go back and watch the tape, there is probably more miscues by the Ravens by far hurting themselves in these games than Pittsburgh hurting themselves, or at least, punching themselves in the foot, if you were to say. The Ravens just play a very undisciplined, ugly, sloppy, non-Baltimore-esque football game every single time they play the Steelers. We have not seen a complete game win, not even just a win, just a complete game. It's not like they're playing their game and they're just losing in the end. Like, it's from start to finish. The Ravens just play a very sloppy, undisciplined, ugly game. And, the trend of all the penalties continued this week. I don't remember how many we finished with, but I know it was quite a bit. I know it was probably close to 10, if not 10 or more. Just again, Ravens are getting absolutely tormented by these refs, getting ripped alive the entire game. And I'm not blaming the refs on anything, but the Ravens are severely undisciplined. And that goes right at the coaching staff. The coaching staff has to get that figured out. Obviously, it's on the players too, but they got to clean something up. And there's just a lot of things right now that I feel like runs deeper within this team that we're not really hearing about. And I'll just start with Justin Tucker. Obviously, this season he has been struggling very mightily. It's insane, and obviously you can blame him right away. But if you look deeper into it, I feel like there's a little more to the special teams unit that's failing this year. I don't know if that's on Nick Moore, the long snapper, or if it probably goes to Jordan Stout, who is the punter, obviously holding these snaps. That's got to be something with it, because if you look at Justin Tucker's struggles, it really starts when Sam Cook kind of left the building, or not left the building, but left the field as a player, and Jordan Stout took over. So there's something on the special teams unit that's not clicking this year, and that really sucks, given that the Ravens special teams unit every year, I feel like, before these last couple were amazing. And, the special teams unit's a failing unit. The defense as a whole outside of today has been a failing unit. There's been a lot of things with players being inactive this season for really unknown reasons. Eddie Jackson, yesterday it comes out that he's not even traveling with the team for non-injury related issues or reasons. So we don't know what's going on there. And there's been a couple of things where players have not traveled with the team this season in certain aspects. And I don't know. I don't want to speculate too much, but I feel like there could be some stuff here that we don't really know about that probably won't come to the surface. Who knows? So hopefully there's nothing deep inside the locker room that's affecting this team's performance, because that would really suck. And ultimately that would hold the team back from a championship run. So I don't know. It's really unfortunate that realistically a couple of these losses we should have as wins, and we should be sitting here probably with 9 wins at this point. But it is what it is. It's the NFL. It's any given week. But it's just kind of unfortunate that, games that you really feel like Baltimore should win nowadays kind of goes in the complete opposite direction. And I feel like teams that, are really good, and the game that's like, oh, Baltimore could lose this one, that's when we play our best. So I don't know. It's a weird motion. Coaching's been a big deficit to this team this season, unfortunately, and it kind of is at the root of all the issues right now with this team. So hopefully they can get it figured out, man. The schedule don't really get much easier from here. We got LA next week, who obviously the Harbaugh Bowl, there's gonna be a lot of meaning to that game. LA is not playing as bad as people think they are, and then we come home to Philadelphia, which obviously we know that. But it's gonna be interesting to see if the Ravens can kind of turn this page once again, and just hopefully look forward and get back on track, and hopefully soon.
And to answer the question for penalties, 12 penalties. Did not realize we had that many either. I thought it was around 9 or 10, like you said, Dawson. I wanted to also point out third down efficiency. Ravens were 4 for 11. That's not up to our standard. But then the Steelers were 4 for 16. How do you lose that? I mean, especially our offense playing the way it has all year. Steelers 4 for 16. The defense finally getting those stops, big, meaningful stops, and trying to get the offense on the field. And it was constantly worn down, really, by first and second down penalties, really kicking ourselves. And then when we got the chance, it would end with a turnover or a Tucker miss. I mean, I was sitting here with my friends, and it was the first Tucker field goal miss and the Derrick Henry fumble, obviously, into the game. And I'm like, this is the exact recipe for a loss. Like, we as fans know it now. It's becoming like second nature. We just kind of know it's happening. It's going on as it takes place. And I'm just really bummed out. It felt like even at the end, a game that we could somehow steal, which makes me feel better knowing, maybe in the future against other teams, we can still do that. But I saw a lot of comparisons to where it was like Lamar losing big games. I don't think that's a correct narrative. I don't like that. This isn't necessarily like the end all be all for the season. We're in week 10. So, or what, 11 or 12, I'm sorry. So I don't know. I mean, it's never fully over, especially even this early on. And we were talking about the season being over, down 0-2. So plenty of things that we can still get right. Even to say that we got to step in the right direction with the defense and step back in the offense, I think I'd take that too.
It's also, I'm going to point out real quick, it's pretty cool that you ended off what you just said, Zach, right there, because that's actually what I was just going to jump into. Obviously, the speculation and the narratives that people are going to push this week are going to be very ugly for Baltimore. It always is after a loss, especially a loss to, your divisional foe in the Steelers. However, you got to take this loss with a grain of salt and kind of look at the positives that you're getting recently. And I would say it's from the defense. I know last week they got torn apart by Cincinnati, of course, but if you actually look at the metrics of that game, they got a ton of pressure. I think we had like the 3 defensive players with the most pressure last week. And today, Odafe Owe, he had what? If that one wasn't taken away, he had what, 4 sacks today? I think he had like 3.5, and he would have had another one if it didn't get confiscated by a penalty. So, holy crap, Odafe Owe on the scene today. That was awesome. Granted, he's going against a very poor playing right tackle, I understand, offensive line. But either way, tons of pressure. Defense played great today, considering all be. And I mean, they were going against a pretty good offensive unit in Pittsburgh, and they played lights out. I mean, they literally held them out of the end zone all day, made big fourth down stops, held them on third down in check, of course, like Zach just mentioned. I think he said 4 for 16, and it's just incredible. I mean, this is encouraging. I mean, I'm taking this with a grain of salt because this defensive unit all season has been the worst thing I've ever seen. I mean, it's insane. And, the last 2 weeks, granted, they didn't exactly end either of them exactly how you wanted to, with getting absolutely thrashed against Cincy and then losing this game. But I'm seeing some positives from the defensive side of the ball. Hopefully, our boys Kyle Hamilton, Roquan, Travis Jones, and all those guys are okay. We're all getting a little banged up in today's game. I think they're all okay. I can't speculate on it. I don't know, obviously, yet. None of us do. So hopefully they're okay, and hopefully they're ready for next week. But I'm taking the positives from this loss, man. Defense is playing a little bit better. They're finding some life. Tre'Davious White, how about that? Debut in a Ravens uniform. Had 2 huge pass breakups, I think both in the end zone against George Pickens. One maybe against Mike Williams. I'm not sure. That's a little encouraging. Obviously, I'm not pinning anything on Tre'Davious White yet, but that's encouraging. So, yeah, offense today was pretty bad, and special teams was horrific. But overall, the worst performing unit on this team so far this season, man, it's found a little bit of life the last 2 weeks, and I'm hoping that this leads to them just stacking some more games and hopefully becoming a better unit down the road.
Yeah. I mean, overall, the defense gave up 12 points. Take out those 2 turnovers. I mean, imagine someone told you like the defense would give up 12 points coming into this one. And I want to give a lot of credit to Zach Orr. The Steelers, I feel like not many people are realizing that the Steelers offense has been on a tear, scoring 30 points a game basically ever since Russ took over.
Yeah.
I think the move – and Dawson, okay, something I want to mention. There is something weird going on with the secondary, I think, with Eddie Jackson not coming to the game. You had like Marlon Humphrey leaving the field early, which he explained, and whatever. But there's high emotional. There's something weird going on that we don't normally see. Like in 2022, you had Marcus Peters yelling at John Harbaugh. It's like it feels similar to a vibe like that, like something kind of toxic going on in the DB room almost, I would say. But anyway, what I was going to talk about is I think benching Marcus Williams in favor of Eddie Jackson was a terrible move. But, and I think we talked about this a little bit, or I might have mentioned it, just even though Hamilton is better when he can just be all over the field and be a nickel and be near the line of scrimmage, we need him to be a deep safety right now because we don't have one. And him and Ardarius Washington, I think that was a great move. I think those two guys should be the safeties for the rest of the season. We're really, really lucky to have Humphrey who can play in the slot. Drafting Nate Wiggins helps us out a lot in that department. And I know Stevens gets a lot of hate, but he is a capable corner. He's not awful. So being able to have Stevens, Wiggins, and Humphrey is very helpful. Tre'Davious White was like insane today.
Turning back the clock, yeah.
Was there 3 jump balls that he batted away or 2? It was at least 2.
There's 2.
That was great to see. I mean, we'll see if he can keep that up. If we somehow got Bills Tre'Davious White for a 29 7th round pick, then I mean that'd be delightful. And obviously offenses have bad games, and it's weird to say that like you could take a lot of positives from this game, but okay, the offense played bad. They'll probably score 30 points next week. If the defense can continue to play like this, I mean, we're saying the whole season, there's a Super Bowl team if the defense can start playing well. I think we all know the offense isn't going to be like this every week from here on out. So I think there are a lot of positives to take away. However, you have the negatives like the penalties and the Ravens continuing to lose games like this over and over and over again. It's just kind of confusing. Another thing, random, the illegal man downfield is absurd. I don't agree with the call. The call on McCary on Lamar's pass to Aguilar, he's on the ground.
He literally got shoved onto the ground, and they called it a legal man downfield. It's insane to me because I feel like I'm just gonna be honest. There's no way a team this season has more legal man downfield penalties than the Baltimore Ravens. I don't watch any other games. There's no way that there's a team with more than us because we get them several times a game, and it's insane to me how often it happens. And I'm so sick of it, dude. I'm gonna quit playing the advocate of having hope right here. I'm getting sick of it, dude. I'm getting sick of these losses because they're embarrassing. And I don't understand why there's a chain with Pittsburgh games that it always happens in the same fashion. It's not like we went out today against the Commanders and did this. It's not like we went out against the Giants or any other team that we don't play often. Every single time we play Pittsburgh, it's the exact same result. And on the second play of the game, you could see that it was going to be no different this year. The second play of the game, Derrick Henry fumbled the ball. After that, it all went downhill for the Ravens. Offense never got it clicking. Lamar Jackson, I'll be honest, did not look great today at all. He did not play a good game. And I'm not blaming him. I'm not blaming him at all for the loss, but he did not play a great game. I know he didn't really have help at certain times, but he definitely needs to take a little bit of the blame for this game. But then you got Zay Flowers dropping a wide open pass down the middle when Lamar's over here playing Superman ball and delivers a perfect pass. So stuff like that can't happen in these games. I don't understand what it does. I don't understand how Mike Tomlin has us held in check every single season, dude. Their quarterback could be anybody underneath the sun, and a Ravens Steelers game would always be 16-13 down to the last 2 minutes of the game. It's impressive how consistently awful these games end for the Ravens. And I mean, it's literally every single game. I predicted the loss, unfortunately, in our pregame pod for this. This is the exact game I saw happening. I literally was so confident that this is the exact outcome of this game. And I hate to say that, but that's a perfect comment right there by Two Federal. I actually said it on my post earlier on Instagram. The Ravens every single season play against Pittsburgh, and they look intimidated. They look scared to play this team. They come out super conservative, and they play a different brand of football that they are not supposed to play, and they try to get all cute and stuff, and it doesn't work. I believe Derrick Henry didn't even have one carry in the fourth quarter, which is insane. I'm pretty sure someone have to fact check me, but I'm pretty sure Derrick Henry had no carries in the fourth quarter. And in a must convert 2-point conversion towards the end of the game, you don't even have an MVP caliber player in Derrick Henry on the field. I'm not saying the play has to go to him, which ultimately it probably should have, but he's not even on the field for Pittsburgh's defense to account for, which is absolutely, I can't say that, poor play calling, because at the end of the day, dude, they're way too predictable. Pittsburgh knew what play was going to happen. Obviously, we saw they stopped it. They went right through the O line and got right in the backfield and got to Lamar. So it's like super predictable play calling. They get way too cute, way too conservative, soft, and boneheaded. And clearly, it doesn't work for them because Ravens are, I think, 1-8 in their last 9 games against Pittsburgh, which is completely unacceptable coming from, who is your biggest rivalry. Which the thumbnail of this video is completely right. It's not really a rivalry at this point in time.
Yeah, real quick before I kick it to you, Zach, about the Derrick Henry thing. I think he finished with 13 carries for 65 yards. It's 5 yards a carry and a touchdown. 5 yards a carry. This is going to be very stupidly simple. If you're averaging 5 yards a carry, you're picking up a first down in 2 plays. I know it's not that simple, but he averaged 5 yards a carry today. And Dawson, you mentioned no carry in the fourth quarter. I believe that's true. The Ravens got the ball back with what, 340, 330, something like that. And you see him on the sideline with his helmet off, clearly knows he's not coming into this game with it being Justice Hill. 330, 3 timeouts. I mean, I would prefer Derrick Henry to be in the game. I mean, they weren't at their own 10-yard line. They had plenty of time. They scored with 118 left. I mean, I would like Derrick Henry, at least a combination of Derrick Henry to be and Justice Hill to be in the game there. And also, we obviously would like Keith Mitchell to get a bit more involved. I know he's coming off an injury, but he needs to have the ball in his hands. But I'll kick it to you, Zach.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you lose the turnover battle. That's a big deal. I think that even the Justice Hill play, right, where the Lamar wheel route to Justice, where we gotten so accustomed to it working out, I think it's a catch. I mean, I thought it was a catch watching it the first time, and then I'm like, oh my gosh.
Devin Bush did that exact same thing to Mark Andrews in 2019. It's insane.
I wouldn't say it's an effort play. Lamar put a pretty freaking great ball on him. It's just, dude, in a game of this magnitude, you have to come down with that ball, right? Like,
I mean, the ball
players like that
was literally put in the breadbasket. You can say you underthrew it all you want, but at the end of the day, Justice Hill was falling on the ground with the ball wrapped in his arms to his chest like this. At the end of the day, that's off the quarterback. That's nothing on the quarterback. He put the ball where it needed to be, and the skill position player has to make the play end, and he didn't. And it's unfortunate. The Ravens get so incredibly unlucky, and I don't want to say unlucky because I'm not saying like the Steelers win by luck, because clearly that's not the case here. But it really is, though. I mean, you got Tucker this season, who's been an absolute liability, and it's unfortunate. And you can say it's the hold, snap, whatever you want, all you want. Kicker needs to make adjustments to his poor play, and if it's all about the hold, then he's got to make adjustments to kick differently. I mean, at the end of the day, it is on Justin Tucker. I mean, I love the guy. Obviously, he's probably the greatest kicker of all time, but it's like, at the end of the day, you got to make adjustments. Something's clearly not working. Every single kick is slinging off to the left. So there's something there that probably I would hope that could be tweaked and hopefully corrected. But it's just crazy how, there's just never a complete game played. And I'm going to keep saying the same thing because until I see differently, it makes no sense. And I'm going to be honest, when we're playing Pittsburgh later in the season, I believe it's in like 4 or 5 weeks. I'm not going to be optimistic going into this game because we all know what happens. I'll probably predict another loss, to be honest with you, because there is something that we just cannot do against Pittsburgh, and it's very unfortunate. And realistically, we are a better team. We should win these games and at least split the series. And, there should not be a 1-8 record hanging over our heads, against the Steelers in the last 9 games. That's just completely unacceptable. John Harbaugh is getting outcoached by a very wide margin, and it's just despicable to see. And unfortunately, our boy is going to get a lot of hate this week, Lamar Jackson, in the media, and I'm not looking forward to it. It's going to be gross. And then obviously you saw how the Bills and Chiefs game ended, so everyone's going to be on Josh Allen to win MVP now, but that's besides the point. I literally don't care about the Bills, Chiefs, anybody else other than this team. It's just unfortunate. That's all it is. But I'm taking a slight hope that the defense is finally finding a little bit of rhythm, and it'd be really dope next week if the offense can kind of bounce back and this defense once again puts up a great game, and that would give me a lot of hope going into the second part of the season.
We talked about this, Attitude Pop, good comment. We talked about this on the preview show where Tomlin said a few years ago that basically the Ravens burn the house down when it gets into a close, tight game situation. And it wasn't so much that today. It was more so just they burn the house down the whole game. It's just funny that, like, Ravens are down 8 with a few minutes to go, and that's when I think we all just knew that we were going to score a touchdown. Yeah.
That's how it happens.
And I definitely would say, I don't think we've talked about it yet, the 2-point conversion call was very questionable to me. I don't know. I feel like with Lamar, the past couple of years, our 2-point conversion percentage has been really, really high. A sweep to the left where he can't even – I just don't know. And obviously no one blocked, so it seemed like there had to have been some type of miscommunication there. You saw Aguilar and Likely kind of fighting each other before the snap, and I don't know. I would love to see Derrick Henry in for 2-point conversions. If you just hand it off to Derrick Henry on a 2-point conversion, how often is he scoring? I think it's at least half the time. And you probably take those odds.
It's inexcusable.
And at the very least, too, if you do hand it off to Derrick Henry and he doesn't get it, it's not like we're like, oh, terrible play call. What the heck? Like you're giving it to arguably outside of Lamar Jackson, of course. You're giving it to your best player. You're putting it in his hands. Like you're doing what you should do realistically. But not even having him on the field is absolutely insane. Like you at least have the defense account for the best running back in the NFL. It's insane to me. And then, like you said, Brad, you roll out to the left. So it's like you have maybe one option if all goes well in the back of the end zone. And I think it was Nelson Aguilar and Isaiah Likely. It's like just bad play call, bad execution, clearly. I don't like it at all. It was really from the get. As soon as we snapped the ball, I'm like, that's not working. You could see right away where it was going, and their defense was ready for it. They clearly watched their film. They knew exactly what was coming. But just odd, very, very odd play. It's very weird.
I want to point out, I'm pretty sure before that play happens, Steelers call timeout, and before they get that, the play starts to happen a little, and I'm pretty sure it's another quarterback run. Like, I don't know.
What are you talking about?
So for the 2-point touchdown happens.
Oh yeah.
They go out there and they call, I like to call them dirty timeouts because
it was going to be a power to the right with Lamar.
So you basically erase that play, right? That play, it was
power to the right.
It wasn't flipped, but no Derrick Henry in the game. You become obvious, right? Like
it's way too predictable. Like at the end of the game, when they put Justin Fields in to ice it, you knew where that ball was going. You knew. Guess who didn't know? Ravens defense. But it's just insane. Like it's so predictable at times, and yet here we are. And it's like you're doing the same thing but expecting different results. It's just insane. There's a saying I was trying to think of it, but I couldn't think of it.
Marlon Humphrey tweeted it a few years ago. It's insanity. You had it right. Insanity is doing the same thing.
You're doing the same thing and expecting different results, and that's really what the Ravens have done every single time they lose games. It's just like, to be honest with you, man, I'm jumping off ship on Brandon Stevens pretty quickly here. I am not a fan of him at all right now. He is a huge liability, and I would say he's a vast majority to this defense's failing unit this season. Every single game, he is getting absolutely tormented. Every single game. He is a huge liability in coverage, and he has absolutely no ball awareness. He cannot make plays on the ball. I know he had a good pass breakup today.
He made one play today. He made a play.
That's true.
He made one play today, so everyone freaked out, but I wasn't amused at all. But then, I saw several, and this sounds terrible. I saw several routes today where he got cooked at least twice on the same route. I saw plays where George Pickens routed him up like twice on the same play, and that's just inexcusable. Not to mention, like I said, I don't blame refs either, but not to mention George Pickens today, dude, he could have realistically had 6 penalties, to be honest with you. He had so many push-offs on our DBs. It was insane. The amount of holdings he had were insane. And not even just him, their whole team in general. The defense in Pittsburgh had so I don't blame refs, but I do think the refs called a pretty one-sided game today, and it was kind of inexcusable given the matchup that we have in front of us. So that's another thing that hurt the Ravens today. Obviously, we talked about that penalties, but I feel like it was called in a very one-sided fashion, which sucks. But moral of the story, before I started rambling, Brandon Stevens, he's a huge liability in coverage, and he's a very, very large part to why this defense this season has been a failing unit.
Dawson, real quick, has nothing to do with game analysis, but when you brought up George Pickens, who obviously had a good game, great player, the play where he reached his foot out of bounds for it to be incomplete.
Isn't that wild? That was
hilarious.
Dude, he's a great player, but I literally hate him. Like I genuinely despise of George Pickens' existence because he's kind of a dirtbag. I hate to say that, but he is a very, very good player. Like he's a very good player, but he's just not a great character.
I don't know about if you guys agree, but there's no one on the Steelers currently, or even in the last 5-ish years, that I dislike as a fan as much as Big Ben, Hines Ward, Ryan Clark, Brett Kiesel. Those guys, no one's touching them. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. But yeah, that Pickens has a funny play every game. Also, it was really chippy today, which is good to see in terms of the rivalry, which we have in the thumbnail. It's not a rivalry anymore because
I don't know, dude.
Like, the Ravens are 1-9.
The game was chippy, but I feel like the Ravens are just not like a tough team this year as far as like physicality. I feel like every game we're getting out muscled and we're just getting bullied. Like I don't want to say we're playing soft because I don't think we are, but we're definitely not playing as tough as we usually do and like to the standard of the Ravens organization. But I feel like every game, especially these divisional games this season, man, we are just getting absolutely bullied in the trenches and we are getting out muscled, I mean, the physicality is off the charts as far as teams against us, man, and it's kind of sad, to be honest with you. It really is. I don't get it. I really don't know what's going on, but hopefully they can get it figured out.
Roquan getting injured hurt a lot. He's gotten hate this season, but going from Roquan and Simpson to Simpson and Harrison is about as big of a drop off as you can have. That hurt, and then you have to change. I think Hamilton had the green dot after that, which is fine, but those are wrenching things. Ravens didn't give up a touchdown today, guys, on defense. I mean,
no, defense played good today, dude. Defense literally played a good game today, like genuinely good. Like there's no reason we should have lost that game, even with 6 field goals.
Do you guys feel like, and this will probably be more of a Tuesday, Wednesday topic, but like the offense in terms of the play calling, just like it didn't look right all day. And I've seen people compare, even Lamar is comparing this game to the AFC Championship. And the Raiders lost, the Chiefs lost, the Browns lost. This game had the same vibe as the AFC Championship. Our other 3 losses didn't have that vibe. It's hard to explain it. It's like an emotional dryness of the team almost. And I don't know. Do you guys get that same feeling?
100%. It's like the team doesn't show up ready to play and they're just scared from the get. Like they literally play like they're intimidated to play Pittsburgh. Like they're scared to go into Acrisure Stadium and play against this team. And it's weird because it's like if there's any game in the season, like this should be top 3 easily of the teams you play. Top 3, that sounds dumb because there's only 3 division rivals, but you know what I mean? Like this should be the team that you are ready to just go in and punch and like bring the physicality and like play tough Ravens AFC North gritty football. And we just don't do that. We just get out bullied, like we were saying, and it's weird. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest. We were watching this game today. I was tuned out of the game a few times because I was just kind of like, this is gonna be the same. Like after like 2 Tucker missed field goals, already like 6 flags in the first half, a fumble, and then it's just like the interception. It's just like, my God, it's so hard to stay tuned into this game because we as Ravens fans against the Steelers know exactly how this game ends up. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how similar the game was today to the last 3 games in Pittsburgh, probably. I mean, if you look back on it realistically, they are all the exact same results. And it's crazy. It's crazy how consistent it is. And it's like there's some weird black magic going on behind the scenes that Pittsburgh just pulls out, man, and it causes the Ravens to panic and play mistake-riddled football. And it's weird. It's impressive, but it's weird.
I think the environment does sometimes like have to do with it. Like Steelers home
Yeah.
field advantage is something special. I think next week is kind of like a chance to have a get back, even though Chargers defense is phenomenal. They're like top 3 in I think both categories.
Oh,
We'll see
awesome.
how they do against something like the Bengals, but I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know. I feel like Brad literally just threw it out there. He was like, "Yeah, I mean, next week we'll score 30 points or something." It's like you think
Probably.
that everyone's going to be pissed off. Prime time. Um, I just hope that it looks, the same really defensively. I think that
Right.
um, it's a big deal about how you respond to a game like this, especially against Chargers potential playoff team. It's another team where you're going to get tested, and you have to prove that you can put a team away like that on both sides of the field.
It's just unfortunate too, because it's like at what point are these losses going to stop happening? Like it's like at what point is this going to be addressed and these self-riddled shot in the foot miscues are going to stop? Like it's like we're in 2024 now. We're 7 years into Lamar Jackson's career, and this still happens to this day, often. Every season, and it's insane because it's like at one point this has to stop. You would think, right? Like you would think that the coaches get it figured out, the players get it off their back, and this just we ride off into the sunset and win a Super Bowl. But no, it's not the case. It happens every season, and it's still going to keep happening. And I don't expect any different. But it's weird because I'm going to say it. This is not a championship level team. This team very well could win a Super Bowl, but given that the way they play against, these lesser opponents and the way they shoot themselves in the foot, no championship, no team that wins a championship does that. So hopefully they get this off their back, or else, obviously we know how the season is going to end, unfortunately for us. And we're going to have our eyes set on April a little more early than we would think. I do think this team obviously makes the playoffs, but it is a little worrisome when we've already had a couple games here that we dropped that we should have won, and we're sitting at 7-4. And realistically, in the AFC this season, you are I would say you're probably allowed 6 losses. I would say 7 losses. You're really pushing your luck. You're really hoping for some other stuff to happen. So not to
This
mention the Ravens. Real quick, I'll finish off. The Ravens have Chargers this week, who are not a pushover by any means, and they have the Texans on the road Christmas night. They have the Eagles coming into town the week after next. They have the Steelers again, which obviously we know that story. And then not to mention all the other games. And it doesn't even matter who you play because the Ravens will lose even if they're a 10-point favorite at times. So it makes no sense, man. But it is a little worrisome because you drop a game in the next 2 weeks. I mean, realistically, if you drop a game against the Eagles or the Chargers here, it's going to be real concerning. It's going to be very concerning very quickly.
I think 10-7, Dawson, you are correct in saying that 10-7 is iffy. This year, probably not, with how bad sort of those middle teams are in the AFC. It's kind of just like the Broncos, and
Yeah.
that's about it. But 10-7 would get you in this year, but obviously you don't want to be a 7 seed playing either the Chiefs or the Bills in the first round. But like I said earlier, this division is still completely up for grabs. Steelers have just as rough as a schedule as the Ravens do, and I think that game on December 21st is probably going to end up being for the division or play a big part in that. But yeah, I'd say Ravens really need to win these next 2 games. A lot easier said than done. But if they do, and they're sitting at 9-5 going to the bye with the Giants game after that, I mean, they'd be in perfectly fine shape. You can also drop one of these next 2 and go on a run after the bye. I don't know.
It's going to get real scary real quick if the Ravens can't win these 2 games. And it sounds so crazy because it's the Chargers in LA and then the Eagles. So it's 2 really, really tough games for your bye week. And then you come off your bye week, you have a favorable start with the Giants. But again, we've seen the history of the Ravens when they're severe favorites or, heavy favorites, I should
The one NFC team to beat Lamar.
say. That too. Dude, I'm not even going to get ahead of ourselves, but if we lose to the Giants, guys, I might actually crash out. I'm not going to lie. However, I'm focused on the Chargers obviously now, and hopefully that's it's a hardball bowl. It's another game where we're facing an old teammate. Well, actually several, I should say, probably the entire roster. Realistically, you got Greg Roman, you got the hardball bowl, and you got J.K. Dobbins, you got Bradley Bozeman, you got Hayden Hurst, you got tons of former Ravens, Joe or Ortiz, stuff. You got
Yeah.
so many former Ravens personnel and players there. This game is going to be very meaningful to both sides. So we'll see what happens. But we got a little bit of an extra break since it's next Monday night. If no one knew that, it is next Monday night, which is sweet. So stoked for that. And hopefully it's a repeat of what happened last time we were on Monday Night Football against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That was a very good game. So we'll see. But obviously tough loss today, man. But there's a little bit of hope. Our defense is playing a little bit better right now, which is very encouraging, given how bad they've been playing throughout the entire season. I just hope the offense can bounce back next week and Justin Tucker can make some adjustments because we really need him. We can't be losing games. I don't want to blame Tucker, but realistically, we've probably lost a couple of games this season given, the circumstances of how poor he's been
At
playing.
least two.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate that we can't really blame the guy. You can't be mad at him, but at the end of the day, you can't be the highest paid kicker, I believe, highest paid kicker, and be shooting, I think, 73% this season.
Did you guys notice how many times
Yeah.
they were still showing a replay after the ball was being snapped?
They
yeah.
they queued to a play, and Lamar Jackson was already like 20 yards downfield. And I was like, what happened? And they didn't show the replay. They didn't show the replay. Villanueva, oh my God, dude.
Yeah, I've never seen that before where they're interviewing someone during the game on the sideline who's not a coach, not a player. Yeah. Very interesting stuff there. But yeah, any final thoughts, Zach?
All good. On to LA.
Yeah. Well, I think we got out everything we had to say. But let's see. What day is it? Sunday? Mm-hmm. We'll be back on Tuesday or Wednesday with a Q&A episode. Appreciate everyone for being here tonight. We have 40 people in here right now. That's the most we've ever had.
That's awesome.
Like the video. If you haven't already, subscribe if you haven't already. We do 3 episodes a week. If you'd rather listen on Spotify, you can find the link on our channel as well. And yeah, we'll see you guys in a few days. Peace.